Hello everyone, welcome to back my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. WWE Monday Night Raw will air later tonight on Netflix and fans are looking forward to the show. To continue entertaining their larger-than-normal audience, Triple H will likely book some big surprises and returns. One name many fans are waiting to see return is Becky Lynch. The man has been gone from WWE for the better part of a year, but she could be back on the red brand later tonight. With that being said, big-time Bex might not be returning alone, and could be joined by Debbie Cato. The 7-year veteran is an Irish pro wrestler who is known for her time in Over the Top and other promotions. Recently, she dropped a bombshell that she was saying, "See you later," seemingly from the indies, but she did not clarify further. There is a chance that the 35-year-old is simply taking a break from pro wrestling, but it could be something bigger. Debbie could be signing with WWE after having tried out to join the company many years ago. If that is the case, she could align herself with Lyra Valkyria and a returning Becky Lynch to form an Irish stable. This would be highly entertaining, but it would also allow Becky to lend her star power to elevate the other two women. Debbie Cato's debut could be quite impactful too, should it come to fruition. Tonight, Lyra Valkyria will be going one-on-one with Dakota Kai to crown the first ever WWE Women's Intercontinental Champion, after both competitors made it to the final of the grueling tournament. In what could be a shocking twist, Debbie could potentially debut by helping Lyra win, turning the Irish youngster heel in the process. From there, Lyra and Debbie could proceed to unite with Becky Lynch before the show ends. Lyra Valkyria and Debbie Cato have a lot of history together. They used to compete in the indies as a tag team known as the Woke Queens. More recently, the real-life friends went one-on-one when Lyra made a rare indie appearance. Following Lyra's victory, the two danced together and were on good terms. As a result, it would make sense for Debbie to help the 28-year-old out tonight. This could even be an order from Lynch, given her good relationship with Valkyria. Who knows, this could lead to faction warfare. Lynch, Cato, and Valkyria could take on Damage CTRL. This, of course, is dependent on the health of either Asuka or Kairi Sane. Regardless, the feud could be a big one on Raw should it come to fruition. For now, this is just speculation. Introduction. WWE's women's division has evolved over the years, with groundbreaking talent shaping the landscape and creating lasting legacies. From pioneers like Trish Stratus and Lita to modern-day superstars like Charlotte Flair and Sasha Banks, the roster has continually raised the bar. However, one of the most compelling and electrifying names to ever grace the ring is Becky Lynch. As the former SmackDown Women's Champion and one of WWE's top stars, Becky Lynch became a global sensation and solidified her place in wrestling history. But now, imagine a scenario where Lynch returns, not alone, but with a rising star from the indie circuit, and they team up with a formidable talent already on the roster, Lyra Valkyria. Together, they form a faction that can change the entire trajectory of WWE Raw. This faction would combine the fiery passion and experience of Becky Lynch, the rising potential of an indie wrestler, and the unyielding strength and skill of Lyra Valkyria. Let's explore the possibility of this faction, and what it could mean for WWE Raw. Becky Lynch's return, a shift in power. Becky Lynch's legacy in WWE is unparalleled. After her meteoric rise, culminating in her the man persona and eventual victory at the main event of WrestleMania 35, Becky Lynch was a force of nature. Her intensity, resilience, and undeniable charisma turned her into one of the top WWE superstars. However, after years of dominating the women's division, Lynch eventually took some time off to recharge, making way for new stars to rise now. With a potential return on the horizon, the question is, what direction will Becky Lynch take? Many fans expect her to return as the same strong, charismatic figure who conquered all challengers. But what if she returns with a different motivation? What if she returns to align herself with a new generation of talent while simultaneously protecting her own legacy? This is where the concept of a faction comes into play. Instead of a solitary return where Becky seeks to reclaim her position at the top, she could return as the leader of a faction that shakes up the entire Raw roster. The dynamic shift would allow her to remain relevant while also elevating younger talent, taking a backseat in terms of championships, but bringing with her the experience and the ruthlessness needed to build a lasting faction. Lyra Valkyria, the unlikely ally. Lyra Valkyria is one of WWE's freshest faces, having appeared on NXT, but she's yet to fully reach her potential in the main roster spotlight. With an exceptional wrestling background and a fierce drive to succeed, Valkyria embodies the type of athlete who is capable of breaking out of NXT and taking her place among the best on Raw. Her in-ring style combines high-flying moves with hard-hitting strikes, making her a force to be reckoned with. Imagine the synergy between Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria. While they come from different backgrounds, Becky Lynch's leadership and the raw, untapped potential of Valkyria could create a compelling storyline. Lyra, being a hard-working and resilient competitor, would undoubtedly benefit from Becky's mentorship, and with Becky's experience in manipulating the crowd and the company's narrative, she would guide Lyra toward even greater success. Together, they would be an unstoppable pair, the battle-hardened veteran and the hungry young talent, creating a dynamic duo that would rival any faction in WWE history. The indie wrestler, a new addition to the faction. The concept of Becky Lynch aligning herself with an indie wrestler opens up an exciting opportunity to bring fresh talent into WWE's spotlight. The independent wrestling scene is filled with diverse, incredibly talented athletes who have yet to be given the mainstream recognition they deserve. Many of these athletes are skilled enough to hang with WWE's finest, but lack the platform to showcase their full potential. One possibility is to recruit a well-known indie wrestler with a reputation for delivering high-quality matches and compelling storylines. This individual could be someone from promotions like AEW, NJPW, or even Ring of Honor, who has made a name for themselves through sheer hard work and determination. This would not only provide the faction with a new, exciting wrestler but also send a powerful message. Becky Lynch isn't just about protecting her own legacy, she's about elevating the next generation of talent. No matter where they come from, the choice of indie wrestler is key. It would need to be someone who complements the characteristics of both Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria. Perhaps someone with a high-flying style or a hard-hitting persona, someone who can stand out among the heavy hitters of Raw, but is also versatile enough to adapt to different match types and storylines. An indie wrestler could bring a new dimension to this faction, offering an alternative approach to WWE's usual powerhouses while staying true to the spirit of the independent scene. This dynamic would create an interesting contrast, with Lynch being the seasoned veteran, Lyra the young, hungry talent, and the indie wrestler adding a fresh, unpredictable edge. The faction's goals and ambitions. The main goal of this faction would be to disrupt the WWE status quo. Whether they target the Women's Championship or simply seek to dominate the Raw Women's division, this faction would be built on ambition, strategy, and power. 1. Control of the Women's division. While Becky Lynch is no stranger to holding championship gold, her return as the leader of a faction would not be centered on winning titles for herself. Instead, the faction would be focused on controlling the trajectory of the women's division on Raw. Becky would be the mastermind, working behind the scenes to ensure that the faction's influence is felt in every match and storyline. Lyra Valkyria, with her boundless energy and drive, would be positioned as the faction's rising star, challenging for titles and taking on all challengers. The indie wrestler, perhaps a less experienced WWE talent, but a gifted wrestler nonetheless, would add diversity and surprise to the faction's attacks. Together, they would slowly start dismantling existing rivalries, slowly taking over the division in a methodical and calculated manner. The first few weeks of this faction's existence would be spent taking out smaller, less experienced teams and wrestlers to build up their reputation, before eventually setting their sights on WWE's top women's champions. 2. A mentorship model. The faction would also have a mentorship aspect, with Becky Lynch passing on her hard-earned wisdom to Lyra Valkyria and the indie wrestler. This would add an emotional layer to the storyline, as Becky would not only be fighting for herself, but for the future of women's wrestling. There could be segments where Becky Lynch takes Lyra Valkyria under her wing, training her in the art of mind games, strategy, and winning championships. This mentorship would create a bond between them that would deepen as the storyline progresses. The indie wrestler would also benefit from Becky's mentorship, but with a different dynamic. As someone who has not yet reached the heights of WWE stardom, the indie wrestler's journey would be one of earning Becky's respect and trust. This mentorship would highlight Becky's loyalty to her faction and her desire to see others succeed, reinforcing her commitment to women's wrestling. 3. Elevating new talent. Perhaps one of the most compelling aspects of this faction would be its focus on elevating new talent. While WWE has occasionally featured young stars, it has often been criticized for either stifling their growth or not giving them enough of a platform. By aligning herself with Lyra Valkyria and the indie wrestler, Becky Lynch could usher in a new era for WWE Raw. These wrestlers would not just be seen as challengers for championships, but as equal participants in the faction's overall mission. This faction could also act as a vehicle for WWE to showcase talent from NXT or other developmental programs. By bringing in new, exciting names, WWE would not only provide fresh faces to the main roster, but also give fans something they haven't seen before. Whether it's a veteran like Becky Lynch guiding new talent or fresh faces building their own identity, the possibilities for creating new superstars are endless. Feuds and rivalries. For a faction to succeed in WWE, it needs to have compelling feuds and rivalries. The faction led by Becky Lynch would no doubt have no shortage of enemies, both within and outside the women's division. 1. Charlotte Flair and the Horsewomen. A feud with Charlotte Flair and the Four Horsewomen would be inevitable. Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair have a storied history, dating back to their NXT days and their legendary bouts at WrestleMania. Charlotte has often been portrayed as the queen of WWE's women's division, and a faction led by Becky Lynch would undoubtedly challenge that notion. With Lyra Valkyria and the indie wrestler by her side, Becky would create a rivalry with Charlotte that could lead to explosive matches and high-stakes moments. 2. Rhea Ripley and the Judgment Day. Another potential feud would be with Rhea Ripley and the Judgment Day. With Ripley being a dominant force in the women's division, a storyline involving Lynch's faction trying to dethrone Ripley and the Judgment Day would add intrigue. This could even lead to some mixed-gender matchups, with the faction targeting both Rhea Ripley and the male members of the Judgment Day in a storyline that mixes power and strategy. 3. Damage CTRL. The faction could also clash with Damage CTRL, a group that has been attempting to dominate the women's division but has struggled to maintain cohesion. Becky Lynch's faction could serve as the perfect counterbalance to the ever-evolving Damage CTRL, creating a rivalry that could span months, giving fans some incredible storytelling and matches. Conclusion. The idea of Becky Lynch returning with an indie wrestler and teaming up with Lyra Valkyria to form a faction is an exciting possibility that could revolutionize WWE Raw. By combining Lynch's leadership, Valkyria's potential, and the unpredictability of an indie wrestler, this faction would provide fresh storylines, dynamic rivalries, and opportunities for new talent to shine. This faction wouldn't just be about the dominance of one or two wrestlers. It would be about elevating the entire women's division and showcasing the future of WWE. The return of Becky Lynch with a faction could provide the spark that Raw needs to catapult women's wrestling into an even more exciting era. Thanks for watching this video, and please subscribe our WWE official YouTube channel for more update news.